long ago, but it's not. Just a little over 3 weeks since those horrible attacks on October 7th. And the person who's about to join me was involved in the immediate response and the aftermath of that attack, trying to save lives in the midst of the many, many hours of violence from the Hamas attack on October 7th. He is Ari Yonatan with the Israeli ambulance service. Ari, thanks so much for joining us this Sunday evening.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to tell our story.
Let me begin there with events that day, because you were not only responding to those attacks, you were suffering as well personally, because you lost your partner, one of those killed on that day. Can you describe what you saw and what you're feeling now these 3 weeks later?
Yes, I can explain to you. First of all, more than one partner, more than one friend. Unfortunately, far too many losses we suffered. So I, first of all, would like to just dedicate this interview to their memory. It should be for a blessing. What happened on October 7th was as follows. It was a holiday morning. Didn't seem anything out of the ordinary. At around 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, we begin hearing booms, explosives. At the beginning, I didn't think too much of it because we live here in southern Israel and we're used to flare-ups every now and again. I look outside, I see that the intensity of the attacks are more than normal flare-up, Patcher, and just to let him know that I'm available if I'm needed for anything, and he tells me immediately, report to the station. There are casualties, dead, injured everywhere, and more than 300 visas waiting to be responded to. So I begin going to the ambulance station to open up the ambulance. Usually I work in a station a little bit further from my home. I started going there. They ended up calling me and saying, don't go to where you normally work because it's under heavy fire. This likely saved my life because already there were the whole city where I normally work was taken over by, various neighborhoods were taken over by Hamas terrorists who infiltrated from the Gaza Strip. Throughout the day, we had nonstop casualties everywhere in the entire southern region, police officers, civilians of all different ages, soldiers. It was a day of complete chaos and a day of complete destruction.
So, Ari, many thousands of Israelis were injured that day, in addition to the more than 1,400 who lost their lives. Can you give us a sense of the status of those who were injured today? How many are recovering? How many continue to suffer through, horrible, life-changing injuries?
So the extent of the injuries are very, very high. We're talking about things that we don't normally see on a normal basis. Unfortunately, terrorist attacks and violent crime isn't something that Israel is a stranger to. We deal with it daily. However, the fact that so many terrorists were able to succeed in infiltrating our borders and completely massacring various villages here in the region, that's something that's never been experienced and never been seen. The degrees to which the injuries varied, like I said, many have died, many were tortured, many were raped, many were abused, many were abducted. You were talking shooting attacks, being burnt alive, being hit with shrapnel from a grenade at point blank. We're talking about limbs being amputated. We're talking about people being injured from rockets that were just shot indiscriminately into civilian areas. Things that are so unimaginable. If a human being can possibly imagine what the worst that they could possibly imagine, if it was done, it was probably done at the hands of the Hamas terrorists.
Yeah. Now, I understand you must be watching events inside Gaza and be sad to see civilians suffering there as well. part of the work you do is responding and helping people in times of need, particularly when they suffer the kinds of injuries that we see in war, some of the most horrible injuries you could see. I wonder what your thoughts are as you look across the border into Gaza.
As I look across the border into Gaza, look, I'm a good human being. I belong to the state of Israel. I belong to the Jewish people. We're a nation that values life, that values justice, that values goodness and light over evil. Many times I've had patients in my own ambulance who were civilians from Gaza who obtained work permits to work here, and as any human being, we give them grade A service and treat them as any human being. That being said, that when their own government is forcing them to stay put, even though they're told by the Israeli Defense Forces to move to southern Gaza, where they can take refuge while the Israeli army conducts their military operations in an attempt to rid the Gaza Strip from the iron rule of Hamas. If the Hamas terrorists are forcing them to stay put and are using them as human shields, then any loss of civilian life or any innocent life, as sad as it might be, it's at the blood is on the hands of the Hamas terrorists, and that is why we need to be steadfast in what we're doing in order to eliminate them and eliminate their rule over Gaza or anywhere else in the world.
Well, Ari, we certainly appreciate the